deliver what Logan assumes to be drugs to the capital, New Babylon. The journey is filled with diversions and subplots, everything from Hawkeye's own daughter becoming a supervillain, killing Kingpin, to being chased by a dinosaur fused with a venom symbiote.
Process.
There's always been that sort of video game theme in Regular Show. It was pretty often that Mordecai and Rigby spent their free time at their TV just playing a game, and every once in a while there would be an entire episode centered around this passion. I think the one that stands out most is Season 2's high score, not necessarily because of the episode itself, but what it actually led to in the real world a few years later. So just to give you some brief context, High Score was all about Regular Show's iconic duo playing this arcade game called Broken Bones. They gradually start getting better and better as more people respect them because of their skill. Eventually, they end
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Alright, there we go.
Up beating the machine's current high score, and then the original high score owner, Garrett Bobby Ferguson, showed up to return things back to how they were. He's a floating head that'll do whatever it takes to be the very best in Broken Bones, which leads to a competition against Mordecai and Rigby. After a long battle, especially with GBF trying to guilt trip everyone else into letting him keep the current high score, our heroes finally beat him in the end, and he literally just explodes in classic regular show fashion. Alright, now that you know how the plot went, let's talk about who this guy is really supposed to be. His name is Billy Mitchell, a well-known video game player who achieved a ton of high scores, most notably for Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. The plot of this regular show episode basically made fun of Mitchell for how he's acted over the years and how he's just always wanted to be at the top no matter what it takes. A few years after this aired on TV, he would go to court and try to sue Cartoon Network. Why he waited so long, I have no idea, but anyway, he believed that his appearance in high score shouldn't have happened, especially since the regular show crew didn't get his permission to do it.
Get off! My chin!
From the beginning, his argument made very little sense. Even though Garrett Bobby Ferguson was clearly making fun of Billy Mitchell, it wasn't actually Billy Mitchell. Yeah, the character design strongly resembles him in real life with the same beard and hair, but this is still parody. The regular show crew working on the episode didn't have to get any special permissions here, since it's transformative content that isn't just directly copying someone else from head to toe. Mitchell took offense to his portrayal here, but there was really nothing he could do since it fell within the boundaries of fair use. After trying to sue Cartoon Network, the end result was pretty much what you expect. Because the animated character was cartoonishly evil and very clearly exaggerating human features that would count as parody, this lawsuit never ended up going through or posing any real danger to Cartoon Network. The court's official statement describes the major differences between the cartoon character and Mitchell. GBF appears as a non-human creature, a giant floating head with no body from outer space, while Plaintiff is a human being. Rather than questioning his opponent's honesty, GBF simply begs his opponents to let him keep his high score. And when GBF loses his title, the character literally explodes, unlike Plaintiff. One of the funniest parts about all this is that in 2018, news came out that Mitchell had actually cheated to get his ultimate record on Donkey Kong. Even though Garrett Bobby Ferguson was a highly exaggerated version of this popular video game player, the cheating stuff makes you wonder, maybe these guys are really not as different as we think. But anyway, that's all for this video. Subscribe for more awesome cartoon videos.
Hello.
Give a thumbs up and
He was in the stream right now. Hello.
No! Why? He just memed me.
Goddamn right. You didn't mean to do that.
Interesting.
What?
How many times are you gonna do it?
Until he dies.
White people be like, you take the moon and you take the sun. Black people be like, black people be like, nigga, snitch, nigga, oh, nigga, bitch, nigga. White people be like,
Perfect companion, heart of gold, helping hand, bro for life, that's my dude, that's my...
white people be like, black people be like, black people be like,
Hey Julie, heard you got that drip, 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 drip.
white people be like,
Hey Julie, heard you got that drip, 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 drip.
white people be like,
Bust down, Tatiana. Bust down, Tatiana. I wanna see you bust down.
black people be like, white people be like, you take the moon and you take the sun. Black people be like, white people be like, black people be like, white people be like, black people be like,
Go crazy. Go stupid. Oh, go crazy. Yeah. Go stupid.
white people be like,
Yeah, you quack like a duck when you suck.
white people be like,
You was at the club, bottoms up when I first met you, couldn't get enough.
black people be like, white people be like, black people be like, white people be like,
Off the face.
black people be like,
Hey, you please stop bothering my kid?
Sorry.
Arthur, I have some bad news for you. This is the last time we'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
And finally, in a world where everyone thinks they can do my job, check out this guy.
When I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me. Well, no one's laughing now.
You can say that again, pal.
It's so awful, isn't it?
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
You think this is funny? Is this a joke to you?
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Send in the clowns.
The Nun, Curse of the Nun, The Bad Nun, Nun. 4 horror movies about nuns were released in 2018. That's a lot of nun. Every single one of these movies have garbage scores. Across the internet, doesn't matter where you look. How many effective scares do you think were in all of these movies combined? None. So let's start with the movie that most of you are probably familiar with, The Nun. Most of you have probably at least seen the trailers or some advertisement of this movie somewhere. It's the newest movie in the Conjuring series. It was directed by a guy named Corin Hardy. I know nothing about this guy. I looked him up on IMDb. This guy has done nothing that I've ever seen. Had The Nun been directed by James Wan, it probably would have come out at least a little bit better. He's the guy that made the first 2 Conjuring movies. He's the guy that made the first Saw movie, one of the only good Saw movies. Well, I saw The Nun in theaters with my wife not too long ago, and let me tell you, it is a mess. It is awful. Did this random director and the bad ratings online scare people away? Hell no. This movie made a shit ton of money, and it's kind of sad that year after year we let these studios pump out these huge blockbuster horror films that are just awful. Always awful. Every once in a while we get one that's like kinda decent, but odds are if it's a horror movie in the current year, it's probably trash. I'm gonna take this thing off. So the movie's about this nun who isn't really a nun yet. I forget what they're called before they're nuns. Like a pre-nun, like an initiate nun. So this father guy is sent by the Pope to investigate this nun that committed suicide. None of the characters were particularly likable in this movie, so there was no tension. Whenever someone was in danger, I didn't really care. You gotta create likable characters in a horror movie. It's really important. All the scares were really weak.
Hello.
They did a pretty good job with the atmosphere, I thought, except it was way too dark. After you watch like the first 15 minutes, the rest of the movie is like pitch black. During most of the shots, the only light you'll see is like through a candle, and it's just a bunch of shades of gray on top of black, on top of gray, just lots of blackness and grayness and darkness. It's like, as much as I like sitting around in the abyss in Dark Souls, can we have some color? Does anyone have color? No? Just black? Okay. Hey, future Elvis here. I rewatched the movie and there's actually a lot of blue. So this movie is pretty much a big bruise. Although I did kind of like how Sister Irene wore white. It was a good contrast. It came across as if she was like a beacon of hope in this very dark and dismal place without directly saying it. This movie is silly in a myriad of ways. There's this ridiculous scene where Father Burke goes outside and he starts seeing ghosts and stuff. And then the ghosts push him into an open casket, close the casket, and then bury him alive. You know, they like throw dirt all up on it and then put grown grass on top of it. And he's screaming from underneath the ground. So then Sister Irene hears him somehow and digs him out. And they decide to stay at the monastery. Let's just stay. We can fix this. Even though I was just buried alive in an instant. Like that, I'm underground now. Isn't that a good indicator that you should leave? That this is a good time to get out? So throughout the film, Sister Irene consistently hears this line, Mary points the way. And it's supposed to be this clever thing, you know, like they come across a statue and its finger is pointing at a hole where you're supposed to insert a key or something. Except there's like a beam of light that's shining directly on the finger of the statue and then it reflects directly into the keyhole. It's like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. Could it be any more obvious? The end of this movie is a complete mess. Valak is the name of the nun demon. Valak is holding Frenchie up against a wall, you know, strangling him. And the demon's just like talking to him, you know, having a conversation. It's so stupid. Normally in these horror movies, when a demon is talking to someone, it's for a reason. You know, they're either trying to manipulate them to do something or something like that. Here, the demon's just talking to him because he's like bragging, you know. You are so pathetic and I am so strong. You're never gonna get out of this alive. It's like one of those stupid scenes from Dragon Ball Z when like you know that they're just wasting time. The best part is with Valak speaking to him, it gave him the time that he needed to escape. Why didn't they just have Valak kill him? Don't be afraid to kill people in these movies. It's a horror movie. Let it happen. So at the very